the last big global pandemic, 1918, the 1918 influenza epidemic, media was not what it is now. So I think it's, I don't know that that number of 26 million, I don't know what that means. It's a big number, and I think it just is a stand-in for showing how much COVID took over the news. Certainly in the US, it was the only thing you could find on the news. If you wanted to find other things in the news, it was incredibly difficult. And there were other things. We had massive protests in the United States during the height of COVID because the police killed George Floyd, and it brought people out onto the streets. And even the coverage of those protests was filtered through what are all those people, in some media, what are all those people doing out on the streets when there's COVID? They're going to just spread COVID more, rather than all of those people out on the streets because there's been a great injustice done to this person. So I don't think there is anything, there's nothing to compare COVID to. We might have something else to compare it to when the next pandemic comes, but sort of going back into the past, it's hard to find a comparison. I don't know, does it really answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you so much. The name again was just marvelous. So I wanted to concur with my colleague Patrick about the challenges sometimes of having some of these stories maybe making front line news or front page news. Remember, these stories, like let's say the COVID story, was coming in to also compete with the other stories that are out there. So I remember the first story that I wrote on COVID back in Zimbabwe was to say one confirmed case in Zimbabwe. That was major that time. I remember my second story was to say second case, but with time I'm going to tell you, me not being an editor, I'm going to tell you the editors got maybe tired with the same story. They said, so what? Because the numbers were keeping on increasing. But what I then did, like what my colleague was saying, because I've got a page now, Twitter handle now called X, I'll then make sure that some of the things that we're failing to find, the space in the main news, I'll make it use on my own personal handle, knowing sure that it's factual, I'm not lying, it's everything that I know, especially from the science cafes, to the extent that I'll get more feedback from my personal Twitter handle through those stories. Why? Because at least each and every one of us is on one social media platform as well. So I think it's something that we should look at before you may be struggling to make sure that your editor finds space for this story. Make use of that platform that you have and make you in touch with all the relevant stakeholders so that the message is out there. Because at the end of the day, people, I want to say maybe they got fatigue somehow because of the COVID story. So for you to keep on then emphasizing it's important, it sounded like a broken record. And also, the other thing that I realized, when you get into a science cafe, then you have experts coming in to speak to you. When those just end, they try to, like what you said, Angela, try to make it more relevant to the people. You then go to the people, how do you feel about the lockdowns? Then get to hear stories, I missed on vaccines for my children because of the lockdown. So find a way to make these stories more relevant to the people. That's what I can say. Thank you.
We get two comments and then we get
just want to confirm from my colleague from that. I think it all goes down to packaging. How do we package our story? During our science cafe, I always emphasize that as a journalist, I'm sorry to say this, what is or I saw, you are trying to make a portfolio of your stories, the stories you write. You are trying to stand out. So the way you package your story, even in our science cafe, we're saying, don't write about the fact that we've held the science cafe. We don't want that story. Even if they publish them, don't say that to us. They are good fun, but we want something that adds value to what we're doing to humanity, to society. So if you have a story, your editor, you think it's good, and your editor doesn't put it on the way you want it, spread it on your platform. So this is something I'll talk about later, I think later in 3 days, about how do we package our stories. Let's not stop from the statement from the government officials. Those are only a starting point. These stories, they can be packaged in front page stories. If you look at other issues that are related to the subject area. Thank you.
Any final comments?
Thank you. So, sorry. So other than just packaging stories, one thing that I've learned is how you pitch your stories to your editor. Initially, when I started working in 2013, I was he said, she said person. You know, that is how I used to do my stories. I joined Mesha in 2014, and I learned the beauty of doing health and science stories. So it's not really about this person said that the other one answered, or this is actually what happened. It is about you being cynical, interrogating, going behind the whole thing that is being said. You know, they always say we as journalists we need to be so inquisitive. So at the end of the day, dig deeper and get to know get information behind it. And I think that has really helped me so much in terms of just pitching my story with my editor. And one thing that I realized that stories die, quote unquote, in our newsroom because we don't pitch our stories. So if you don't pitch, you will not find airtime for that particular story. And the fact that I've been pitching my stories, I thank God because I have been given a health segment in radio. So basically right now, I'm the one who is managing the segment, and it is right now, that is Radio 47. And last week we had a meeting with our TV, because I do radio and TV, with our TV editor, and they were telling me, you're doing something in radio, why can't you do a proposal so that we give you a segment also on TV? So basically one thing that when I started doing these stories, people used to say health is not exciting, health is not sexy, health is boring, but it is you, the way you pitch your stories is will determine the kind of, the airtime that will be given, or a segment that will be given by your editor. So we are ambassadors of health stories here and science stories. Let's pitch our stories so well. Let's send it to our editors, and they'll give us that space.
That's great, and I think maybe a good place to end, if nobody else has any comments or questions, and we'll take a little tea break and then come back.
Right, the break will be starting about 15 minutes.
Thanks, everybody.
Ah,
Yes.
Yes, but even before this, this